The tale of Helen and Paris, a love that sparked a war. In the ancient world, where gods and mortals walked the same earth, there lived a woman whose beauty was said to rival the very heavens. Helen of Sparta, the daughter of Zeus, was more than a queen. She was a symbol of perfection, yet beneath her graceful exterior lay a restless heart, trapped in a gilded cage of expectations. One summer evening, under a crimson sunset, Helen gazed out of her palace balcony, longing for freedom. She had wealth, power, and admiration, but she lacked what she desired most: choice. Her husband, Menelaus, was a strong king, yet their union was one of politics, not passion. Far across the Aegean Sea, the city of Troy thrived. Among its noble sons was Paris, a prince known for his charm, wit, and recklessness. Fated by the gods, Paris had once judged a contest among the goddesses Hera, Athena, and Aphrodite. As a reward, Aphrodite promised him the love of the most beautiful woman in the world. And so, the threads of destiny began to weave a tale that would change the course of history. The meeting of fate's Paris arrived in Sparta as a diplomat, accompanied by his brother Hector. The royal halls of Sparta welcomed him with a grand feast. Gold chandeliers cast warm light over the stone walls, and musicians played melodies that echoed through the banquet. Helen entered the hall, her presence silencing the room. Draped in a flowing gown of white and gold, she moved with the grace of a goddess. When her eyes met Paris's across the table, time seemed to halt. Aphrodite's promise was fulfilled in that instant. A spark ignited between them, unseen by others but felt deeply by the two. Their conversation that night was brief but electric. Paris spoke of Troy's beauty, its lush hills and sparkling seas, while Helen listened, her heart racing. For the first time in years, she felt alive. The forbidden escape days turned into weeks, and Paris and Helen's connection grew stronger. Late at night, they would meet in secret, away from the watchful eyes of the court. Under the cover of darkness, they walked the palace gardens, whispering dreams of a life together. "Come with me to Troy," Paris pleaded one night. "Leave this life of chains and duty behind. I will protect you, Helen, and we will write our own story." Torn between fear and longing, Helen hesitated. But as the days passed, the pull of her heart grew stronger than her sense of duty. One moonlit night, she made her choice. With a cloak wrapped around her shoulders, she slipped out of the palace and boarded a Trojan ship with Paris. The journey to Troy was both thrilling and terrifying. As the ship sailed into the vast sea, Helen looked back at Sparta, knowing there was no turning back. Paris stood beside her, his hand in hers, promising a future filled with love and freedom. The wrath of Menelaus. When Menelaus discovered Helen's departure, his grief quickly turned to rage. Calling upon the kings of Greece, including the mighty Agamemnon and the cunning Odysseus, he vowed to bring Helen back and destroy Troy. 1,000 ships were assembled, their sails filling the horizon as they set out for war. In Troy, Helen and Paris found solace within the city's towering walls. The people of Troy welcomed Helen, captivated by her beauty and grace. In the royal gardens, Paris and Helen shared moments of peace, unaware of the storm approaching their gates. But the gods, ever meddling, watched with interest. Some favored Troy, others sided with Greece. The seeds of destruction were sown not just by men, but by the immortals who played their own games. The siege of Troy. The Greek army arrived on Troy's shores, their bronze shields glinting under the sun. For 10 long years, the city withstood the siege. Battles raged, heroes fell, and the land was soaked with blood. Paris fought bravely, but his love for Helen was both his strength and his weakness. One fateful day, he faced Menelaus in single combat. The duel was fierce, with swords clashing and shields splintering. Though wounded, Paris survived, saved by the intervention of Aphrodite. Inside the city, Helen struggled with guilt. She loved Paris deeply, but the suffering caused by their love weighed heavily on her. She wandered the halls of Troy, haunted by the cries of the battlefield and the sight of grieving families. The Trojan horse. After years of stalemate, the Greeks devised a cunning plan. They constructed a massive wooden horse, hiding their best warriors inside. Pretending to retreat, they left the horse as a gift to the Trojans. Despite warnings from Cassandra, the Trojan priestess cursed to be ignored, the horse was brought into the city. That night, as the Trojans celebrated, the Greek soldiers emerged from the horse, opening the gates for their comrades. Flames engulfed Troy as chaos erupted. Paris fought valiantly, but he was struck down, his final thoughts filled with love for Helen. The city that had stood for generations fell in a single night. The tragic end, Helen was captured and taken back to Sparta, her heart shattered. Though she survived, her story became one of tragedy, a love that defied kings and gods but brought ruin to all. The tale of Helen and Paris remains a timeless reminder of the power of love and its consequences. It is a story of passion, betrayal, and the fragile line between desire and destruction.